Welcome everybody to our VLSAA webinar series, the whole point of which is just that. So you can see a familiar face, we can have some touch points with each other, we can figure out what other people are up to and catch up. And so Liz, that makes me so happy that you were like, wait, I know him, hello. So I'm Margot, I'm the chair of the Alumni Engagement Committee for the VLSAA board. And this is our first webinar of 2022. We started this during the pandemic. We're going to keep it going for this year. We have a monthly slate of things coming up, so keep tabs on your email. Let's see, couple of housekeeping hot tips. If you want to leave yourself muted, that is best for feedback. If you want to change your name to your name and then, you know, your class year and oh my gosh, I couldn't think of the word degree, your degree and class year, that's helpful for identifying resources. Also for questions, you can put the questions in the chat throughout the program, and then we'll open up the floor at the end, in which case you can also use the chat, or you can just unmute yourself and ask your question of Liz. We're all friends here. I will keep tabs on the chat questions, not a problem. So in addition to myself, I also want to introduce you to Andrew Lane, who is the interim vice president for alumni relations and development. He is fantastic. If you have any questions or thoughts, feel free to reach out to Andy. And then Lauren Close, who is our alumni communication manager for VLS. She is the one that makes all of these happen, so we do not exist without her. And then finally, as our presenter today is Liz Morgan. So Liz graduated from VLS in 2001 with her JD and her MSEL. Now she is a functional nutritionist specializing in digestive healing, blood sugar imbalances, liver health, inflammation, food and chemical sensitivities, and chronic pain recovery. She is on a mission to transform the food culture into one that makes people and ecosystems healthy and vibrant. So Liz, I will turn it over to you.
Thanks so much, Margot. Let's see, I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, thanks for being here, everybody, for this topic of digestion, climate change, and brain power. I know they all seem possibly a little disconnected, but I'm going to connect them all for you. Here's my contact info. I just January 1st changed the name of my business from Liz Morgan Nutrition to People and Planet Healing Solutions to better encompass this breadth of work that I want to do, but the website is still lizmorgannutrition.com. So let's dive in. Digestion and climate change, how to heal ourselves and the planet. We are so connected to the health of the earth. That these two seemingly really disconnected things really are happening together. Ecosystem collapse, poor health of the people. So in this talk, I'm going to show you how they're connected. So let's start with, what is health? What is human health? What is planetary health? And what is food culture health? Let's start with human health, and drop it in the chat. Wait, why can't I see the chat? Let's see. Well, drop it in the chat if you have ideas of what is human health. I think it's, we wake up feeling good every morning. We have enough energy to make it through our day gracefully, without struggling, without needing caffeine and sugar and other things to get us through. We feel joyful. Our bodies feel good. We feel our minds work. We're clear and sharp. And overall life feels good. We're not overly stressed out. Planetary health. What is planetary health? Drop this in the chat if you have any ideas. What does it mean? Excuse me. I think planetary health means we have old growth forests and oceans that are not full of plastic, and our work as humans creates resilience and life on Earth rather than death and planetary collapse. It means we have healthy, thriving ecosystems. What is food culture health? Now, this is the one that most people don't think about all that often. Food culture health encompasses agriculture, transportation, how we eat, what we serve our friends when they come over for dinner, what's going on in restaurants, what's going on in school cafeterias. Food culture health is when foods are enjoyable and nourishing. Wholesome, real foods are celebrated. Regenerative farming that restores soil and ecosystems and pollinator habitat is the norm, not the exception. Maybe in a food culture, we're not belittled for wanting to eat healthy food and stepping away from processed packaged food. Maybe we use less single-use disposables. When we go to a restaurant, we can trust that the food's gonna have, clean, healthy ingredients, not a bunch of chemicals that we don't know that we're eating. Okay, so my mission and the mission of People and Planet Healing Solutions is to transform the food culture to one that makes people and ecosystems healthy and vibrant. And as I was thinking about this, I was thinking, what do we humans normally think about our impact on Earth? We often think the best we can do is to have less of an impact. Like, we think that humans naturally have a really negative impact on the Earth, and the best we can do is have less of an impact. I don't agree with that. I think our job is to have a really, at least in this point in human history, I think our job is to have a really big impact and to restore the ecosystems of the planet and to restore the health of the people. And they really go together. And so as I'm thinking about, well, okay, I was saying for like a year, my mission is to transform the food culture to one that makes people and ecosystems healthy and vibrant. How do I do that? I can't do it alone. I need you guys, I need help, I need community. So at the end of this, we're gonna talk about actual projects we can all do in our lives to transform the food culture, to talk about things differently, to change the norms. But first, let's get some facts and figures in our head so we know what we're even talking about. When we talk about climate change, a lot of the discussion is around energy use and carbon in the atmosphere that comes from automobiles and manufacturing and electricity. I'm always thinking about the food side of it. So quick history of land use in agriculture. This is a UN FAO report. The chart is that says about half of the world's habitable land is used for agriculture. Habitable land is not covered in ice, not oceans, not barren desert. So half of that is used for agriculture. About 1,000 years ago, only they estimate about 4% of the world's non-barren land was used for farming. And so we have to say, well, what is happening on that land? And it's interesting, the way that we do agriculture, especially in about the last 200 years, has released something like 133 billion metric tons of CO2 from the soil into the atmosphere. That's more than 3 times as much carbon as all human activities emitted in 2019. So it's a huge amount of carbon. Soil, healthy soil, is organic matter. It's meant soil, one of the amazing functions of soil is that it sequesters carbon when it's living and alive and there's bugs and worms and decomposition happening. So there's the big catchword now is regenerative agriculture, and that's the idea of like farming in ways that help the soil capture carbon. It creates healthier soil. Healthier soil creates healthier food for us to eat. So there's one really important piece. Healthy soil sequesters carbon, helps restore ecosystems, and also makes healthier food for humans. This is a Rodale Institute report. They estimate 100% of annual carbon emissions could be sequestered in soil if global agriculture systems transition to regenerative farming. I've seen anywhere from like 70% and up. This is certainly as high as it gets. It's a high estimate, and there's some debate about it, but I think it's pretty extraordinary to think about it's not just about building these factories that pull carbon out of the air, like some, these technological fixes. We really have to think about ecosystem fixes for the climate crisis. And not, these ecosystem fixes not only mitigate carbon, but also help make us healthier. This is just another page from that report. Just skip over that. So, okay, so there's the how do we do agriculture? How do we farm? How do we treat the soil component? And then there's also, when we're looking at the food culture, we have to look at single-use disposable packaging and food service products, disposable cups, disposable plates. They might be paper, they might be plastic. This Clean Water Fund report is looking at compostable bioplastic foodware. This is interesting because it's disposable products used in food service, but it's also bioplastic. It's like grown from like GMO corn or something like that. So it's an agricultural product that also is used in the food system. So a lot of times when you see numbers on how much the agricultural sector or the food sector contributes to climate change, a lot of times they're only looking at agriculture. They're not looking at the single-use disposable plastic issue, which is huge. This report found that using reusable cups in food service reduces greenhouse gas emissions. And this is even compared to the best form of compostable foodware. So we have to think about how we're growing our food, what we're eating, what we as customers buy, what farms we support, but also, can we just wash a cup? Can we just wash a cup, or do we have to use all these disposables? Another part of the food culture is that connects with climate change and human health is all the pesticides and herbicides that we use in industrial agriculture. This, you guys might remember a few years ago, this was a huge lawsuit, a huge win for this man, Dwayne Johnson, who I believe has passed away due to a terminal cancer he got from being exposed to too much Roundup. His award was reduced quite a bit in the appeals process, but still it was still a huge win, and really the first time the courts connected cancer with Roundup. Now Roundup, here's a map of how much Roundup is used in the US, and you can see there's lots and lots of really toxic chemicals that are harmful to human health that are used in the agricultural system. This just happens to be the most popular one. So I'm highlighting it. But I wanted to show, here's a really interesting list. Oh, I'm pointing at the wrong part of my screen, sorry. Here's a really interesting list of foods that are commonly eaten that have a lot of glyphosate in them. And Cheerios is way at the top of this list. So when we're thinking about how do we transform the food culture to one that makes people and ecosystems healthy and vibrant, choosing foods that aren't covered in glyphosate or other pesticides is really, really important. And I think as lawyers, as leaders in our businesses, as leaders in our community, as people who care about this stuff, this is a really important place that we can function and change the conversation, right? Now, it's not like cereal is the healthiest, best food, it's highly processed, but there are, organic Cheerio alternatives. Easy upgrade. This is such an easy upgrade to do. And one more slide on glyphosate. There's also, glyphosate also disrupts the human gut microbiome, as do so many chemicals that we're exposed to. Chlorine in the water definitely disrupts the human microbiota. We're going to talk a little bit later when we get into the digestion section about why the microbiome, all the little bugs that live in our gut, are so vital for health. And so if we're eating foods that harm that delicate ecosystem, it's going to impact our digestion, it's going to impact our brain function, and it already did some pretty nasty things to the ecosystems as well. So what can we do? We can be leaders that lead to change food culture norms. You know, we can have different conversations. We can buy foods that were grown in healthy soils. We can source more nourishing foods that are better for us, better for the environment, that treated animals more humanely. We can talk about it and we can normalize it. And I think a lot of people, I mean, in my practice, I've seen in the last just even 6 months, I've seen more people than ever be interested in eating responsibly in the era of climate change. And no one really knows what to do. There's lots of like ideas floating around, but no one really knows how to take care of their own bodies. There's all these fad diets. And people are feeling a really big burden. Like each person has to do it all. And so I just want to like say, if we do it together to shift the culture together, we can each do parts. We can do some of it. We can move towards a better, more healthful food system without being burdened that we have to have the whole weight of it all on our shoulders. So I really think that humans are the most broken part of the Earth's ecosystem. So, you know, we talk about how do we solve climate change? How do we solve, you know, species extinction, all these things. We have to learn to heal ourselves first. Humans are the most broken part of the Earth's ecosystems. We must learn to heal ourselves in order to understand what the Earth needs from us. So I also think what's good for us is good for the planet. You know, a lot of people think like, I want to have, you know, if I was wealthy, I would own 20 cars and 1,000 pairs of sneakers or something. That's good for me. I look at it a little differently. Like, I think when we do things that increase the life on planet Earth, it makes it better for us to live here. You know, so how do we connect to this concept of what's good for us is good for the planet? There's a reciprocal relationship between humans and the planet. If we take care of us, it takes care. If we take care of it, it takes care of us in return. If we build healthy soil, the food has more nutrition in it. Lots of really cool studies on that issue. You know, lots of people feel really guilty and shameful about the food system. Well, I think if we took better care of animals in our food system, we'd have less guilt and shame around the food system, around eating them. If we have less toxic exposure, it's good for the planet, good for us. Less single-use disposable, good for the planet, good for us. We create room for pollinator habitat in our farming systems. I mean, farms don't leave any room for habitat for pollinators that are needed to pollinate the food. So it's like we're growing food in a way that is creating this collapse and this potential inability to grow food. Food is our most powerful connection to nature, to soil, to healthy people and planet. We eat food every day. That's our, you know, whether we like really think, like give a prayer to the soil or the farmer or the bees that pollinated it every day, or if we just eat mindlessly, that we're still connecting to the soil, to the ecosystems. And this is really a way that we can feel more connected and grounded in our lives as well. So let's talk about digestion. Digestion is absolutely fundamental to health. We cannot be healthy without having a healthy digestive system. We can eat the most beautiful food. If we're not digesting it, we won't be healthy. We'll be malnourished, we'll be stressed out, and our health will spiral into all kinds of crazy directions. So let's talk about how digestion works, how it breaks, and how to fix it. Okay, we're gonna start with a little tour of your digestive system. So get comfortable, sit back, and put your hands on your head. Digestion starts in the brain. The brain activates the rest and digest response. That's the opposite of the fight or flight response. And so many of us are in fight or flight, stressed out mode when we eat. If we don't calm ourselves down when we eat, our brain won't tell our stomach and all the rest of our organs to do their digestive work, to release those digestive juices. And so if we put food into our digestive system, but we don't actually digest it correctly, that causes problems down the whole system. It causes impairments and dysfunctions and leads to us being malnourished. So first off, we have to calm ourselves down. Digestion starts in the brain. And then the mouth. So the mouth has a physical and a chemical function in digestion. We have to chew our food. You know, what does everyone do? Chomp, chomp, swallow. Chomp, chomp, swallow does not get the food to the right place where it needs to be to get when it gets into the stomach. So we need to mush saliva, salivary amylase. There's enzymes in there that help break down carbohydrates especially. So we really need to chew the food so it's mushy and full of saliva, so that, you know, our digestive system's kind of like dominoes. If one domino is out of place, it messes up the whole little chain. So the digestive system, every little piece has to be right or it gets screwed up. Okay, so chew thoroughly. Then the food gets to our stomach. In our stomach sends out hydrochloric acid, really acidic pH level that helps dissolve the food, break apart proteins, break apart minerals. If we're on proton pump inhibitors or antacids, this function is impaired. So there's another place where we might not be digesting our food, or we're pulling a domino out so that digestion doesn't happen, and then it'll screw up stuff down the system. So I want you to take your hands to your left rib cage, to the very bottom of your left rib cage. I don't know if I'm mirrored or not for you guys, but and then press your fingertips, do it gently, press your fingertips up inside under your left rib cage. That's where your stomach lives. That's your stomach. And then now go to the go across to the other rib cage, to your right rib cage. Press your fingertips up in there under your right rib cage. That's where your liver and gallbladder are. So people so often will just be like, oh, I have a bellyache. And we have no idea like what organ is actually hurting. So it's really helpful to just know where these things live in our bodies. So the stomach is this pink thing right here. And this is your liver, and the gallbladder is just under it. Okay, so food moves from the stomach into the small intestine. So that's this big jarble of intestines here. If you place your hand over your belly button, your hand is over your small intestines. Your whole hand. The small intestines take up a lot of room in there. So food moves from the stomach to the small intestine. And in the small intestine, the liver sends in bile that helps break up fat, and the pancreas sends in pancreatic amylase that helps break up down all the food, proteins, fats, carbohydrates also. So you can see if like something's wrong with your liver, something's wrong with your pancreas, there's some more impairments in the digestive process. Food is broken down and begins to get absorbed through the small intestines, and then it moves into the large intestine, and that's this big, larger intestine that wraps around all the jarble of small intestine. So your large intestine, if you take your fingers just inside your right hip, and press in, and then go up to the bottom of your rib cage, that's your ascending colon, come across just under your rib cage, transverse colon, and then down just to the left hip, descending colon. So there's your colon, and that's where lots of nutrients get absorbed. Okay, so that's a quick tour of your digestive system. And then of course, there's this beautiful diverse ecosystem that lives inside of our gut. We have an ecosystem, we have a microbiome on our skin, in our mouth. Well, the mouth is part of the digestive system. So there's good bacteria and bad bacteria. There's bacteria that are fine unless they're overgrown, and then they cause problems. There's parasites, there's yeast, there's fungus, there's protozoa. So much happens inside of our digestive system. You know, I used to just think you could eat whatever, like certainly my body can just figure it out. But it's very breakable. It's this very delicate system. You know, stress, antibiotics, too much sugar, too much alcohol, too much processed food, not enough fiber, not enough diversity. All of these different kinds of things can really change the ecosystem in our intestines and can change the function. So these are really a vital part of our digestive system. So just to think back to soil, right? Like we live in kind of a sterilized society. We're always just killing everything around us, whether it's in the agricultural system, in our own bodies, on our countertops, when we clean, we're just killing everything. And it's really changing, it's literally like is changing our microbiome. We don't have the healthy ecosystem that we're supposed to have, and neither do the soils. And so we have to like heal both together and be, and find the right balance. Okay, let's talk about obvious symptoms of a broken digestive system. So sometimes we know that our digestive system is broken. Maybe you guys signed up for this talk because you're like, I know I have digestive issues that are, you know, really impacting my life. And maybe you just signed up because you were interested in it for other reasons. Sometimes there's really obvious signs, sometimes it's not so obvious. So obvious signs: bloated after meals. You bloated right after a meal, something's not digesting right. Loose stools or constipation. Things aren't moving through. Could be a microbiome issue, could be what you're eating, could be you're too stressed. Maybe you're not moving enough, like you're not getting enough exercise. So things just kind of like freeze up. Could have pain in your stomach or intestines, a fatty liver diagnosis. People forget that the liver is part of the digestive system. So if there's something going on with your liver, that's part of your digestive system, things won't be digesting as well. Or, you know, a diagnosis like IBS, IBD, Crohn's, colitis, SIBO. Even something like incessant hunger or excessive cravings. If you're hungry all the time, like most people think something's wrong with me. I'm a bad person. I just can't stop eating. I'm binge eating. There's nothing wrong with you. It means you're malnourished. Your body needs food. And even if you're overweight, you can still be malnourished. So incessant hunger, excessive cravings, binge eating, it means maybe you're not eating enough wholesome, nourishing, diverse food. And it might also mean you're not digesting that food. Gallbladder impaired or removed. An autoimmune disease is also so connected to a broken digestion. It's when our digestive system breaks, it spirals into all these other health conditions. Autoimmune disease is one. Less obvious symptoms of digestive distress. So a lot of our immune system lives in the digestive system. So a lot of times we'll get hives, rashes, itchy skin, food sensitivities, chemical sensitivities when we have a sluggish liver, when our digestive system's broken, when that microbiome is out of balance. And the physical structures of the digestive system can break also. Like, you know, you can get an ulcer in your stomach. It's a hole in your stomach. You can, the little villi that absorb nutrients in your intestines, those can break off. If you're sending food in that's not digested, those can literally like break off and make it harder to digest food. It can heal. All this stuff can heal if we do all the right things. So yeah, like I used to have the worst chemical sensitivities. I could not work in an office because just like people's deodorant and body products they used just gave me migraines and made me exhausted. And I didn't have any idea what was wrong. It was before I was a functional nutritionist. I didn't know what was happening. I just thought, well, this is how life feels, I guess. Like I'm, eating pretty well. What else could be done? But there's so much that can be done. Even seasonal allergies. I help people heal their digestion. Seasonal allergies get so much better. Acne, lots of people will just try to do topical creams and can't get on top of it. Well, maybe there's an infection in your gut that you need to deal with, that maybe there's a candida infection that you need to kill first. Exhausted after meals. I had this one too. I used to just be exhausted after every meal. And I know a lot of people think they feel better if they don't eat. Like people will skip breakfast, people will skip lunch because they know they'll just be tired after they eat. This could be because your digestion's not working right or has spiraled into lots of food sensitivities. So you need to remove those food sensitivities, calm down all that inflammation, eat what's good for you. And then a lot of times you can go back to foods that you had to remove so that you're not so exhausted. Food should not make us exhausted. Food should make us, we shouldn't have these highs and lows of energy all day. Brain fog, lack of mental clarity. Also hugely related to digestion and nourishment. If we're malnourished, of course your brain's not going to work very well. And also a lot of those bugs in the gut, if you have like bad bugs overgrown, a lot of them, part of their life cycle, they release neurotoxins, like actual chemicals that harm your brain. So brain fog that you just can't shake, or that you're like, I just need 10 cups of coffee a day and then I'm okay. That could be something related to digestion as well. Also less obvious, like, poor memory. Lots of people think, well, I'm in my 40s, 50s, 60s. I'm just naturally supposed to have a worse memory as I get older. Not necessarily true, and always worth kind of figuring out what you can do to up level to improve your memory by improving digestion and nutrient quality of your foods. There's so many less obvious digestive symptoms. Here's a few more: chronic pain, joint pain, some of these serious diagnoses, hormone imbalances. So often I see people who they have a hormone imbalance and they were just given like progesterone cream or some kind of exogenous testosterone. It makes them feel better for some amount of time, but usually it won't last because they haven't fixed the underlying problems. One of the jobs of the liver is to get rid of excess hormones. If something's wrong with your liver, or you have too much toxic chemicals and your liver can't do it, you'll get a buildup of estrogen or other chemicals or other hormones or chemicals. And so it can be really helpful to heal digestion in order to get a hold of your hormone imbalances, like, hot flashes, really bad PMS symptoms. Men will see hormonal imbalances as like weight gain in areas they don't want it. A lot of this is related to what you're eating, the chemicals you're exposed to in your food, and how well your liver's working and how well your digestion's working. Anger, depression, anxiety, more like mental connections to digestion, and trouble sleeping, blood sugar issues, all this stuff, so important to heal digestion. And you guys, this is stuff like your doctors don't say, right? Because they just don't do this. And so sometimes you just have to look outside of your medical care alone and figure out how to do some multiple modalities to best support your own health. And also just spiraling health problems that you can't figure out. You're being sent to expert after expert after expert, and they're like, we don't know. Well, food quality, chemical exposure, and digestion are often so important. So poor digestion is a root cause of many health conditions. It absolutely must be addressed to reclaim our health. So what causes digestive dysfunction? I've mentioned it as I've gone through this, but we'll just go again, like low fiber, low diversity diet, right? Lots of people want to get healthy and they go, okay, I'm just going to have steamed broccoli and a chicken breast every day for lunch forever because that's healthy. But it's not diverse. And our digestive system really needs diversity. lots of different fibers, like all the plant foods you can figure out how to eat, lots of different veggies, lots of different, if grains and legumes work well for you, lots of different ones. Not too, fruit has lots of fiber and nutrients too, but more veggies than fruit. So if you're eating a low fiber diet, low diversity diet, your microbiome doesn't have all the food it needs, and motility will be an issue. Antibiotics. Most people don't do anything to recover after antibiotics. Stress has a really big impact. Processed food, plastic exposure. So this is a really important ecosystem connection. Lots of food is, if you're microwaving food in plastic or eating lots of packaged food, like canned food, there's plastic on the inside of the cans, and the can was probably filled hot. The food was probably hot when it went in, so that plastic is getting into your food and can disrupt your systems. Let's see, we've talked about some of these. Dehydration, hugely important for digestion, and also chlorinated water. So it's really important to filter your water if you can, and get a good filter. Even a not a good filter is better than no filter at all. Not eating fermented foods. Over sterilization of the environment, too much alcohol. And then of course, glyphosate, pesticide residue, and a low fat diet as well. Even too little or too much exercise. And that's totally different depending on the person and your health conditions. So how to heal your digestion? So that you can feel better in life, so that your brain can work better, so that you can, do your job and participate in your family and outside of work life better also. I think at post-pandemic, or we're not really post-pandemic, wherever we are in this purgatory of the pandemic right now, we have to do extra things to help us heal from all this trauma and stress that we've all collectively experienced. Upgrade your diet, buy food from a regenerative food system, check out your local farms, reduce stress, wholesome balanced diet, hydrate, reduce chemical exposure, purify your water. That's the stuff we've talked about. Then if that's not enough, digestive supplements are really, really helpful in targeted specific ways. Eradicate the bad bugs, populate the good bugs, and movement and time outside. Of course, to avoid all the processed packaged junk, weird ingredients. Oh, whoops, sorry, I skipped one. And cultivate calm. Sit down when you eat. Take some deep breaths before you shovel food down your digestive system. I love doing family games. So if you're eating at a table with people who are stressing you out, do little games with them. Say I'm working on something. Let's all do it together. Put your fork down in between bites. That can just make mealtime so much calmer instead of shoveling. Okay, and then of course there's testing, which I offer for my private clients. Okay, so now we've gone over some things going on in the agriculture system and the food system, some things going on in our own bodies, what we need to be healthy. Now we can use all of that to think some more about how do we transform a food culture into one that makes people and ecosystems healthy and vibrant. And the way we're going to do it is through decadence, not deprivation. I do not want to spend my life telling people, deprive yourselves. That does not sound like fun work to me. And I love food. I think food is one of the best things we get to experience in this world. And good, healthy, nourishing food is decadent and delicious. And when you're well nourished, you don't feel deprived. You feel so much better than ever. When you're on the diet roller coaster, your digestion didn't work. So for me, it's all about decadence, not deprivation. So, what we're going to do now is talk about, I wish I could, sorry, I just can't figure out how to see the chat while I'm showing my screen. But
Well,
we're going to talk.
Liz, not to interrupt you, but I was
Oh,
going to
thank you.
wait till the end and give you the questions instead of shouting them out in the middle of your presentation, because I have the chat open. So I have the questions for you.
Oh, good. Well, oh wait, there it is. I can see it. I'm like as bad as my parents on this. I just wanted to see if I was asking people to drop some ideas in the but yes, thank you, Margot, in the chat that I could see them. Okay, so when I do this talk as like a longer 3-hour workshop, we really spend time brainstorming about a real group project that everyone can do together. Today we're just going to like throw out some ideas, and I want you guys to think about committing to doing something. And then I'm going to hope you're going to report back to me in like 2 weeks or a month about, did you have the conversation? Did you upgrade the quality of your vegetables or your meat? Did you stop using plastic cups at your work events? Like there's so many things we could do to create a more healthy, nourishing food culture. So let's just like I'm going to throw out a few ideas here. Things that we can all do to create new norms, new rules of etiquette, right? Like, is it good manners to serve me wine in a plastic cup? I don't know. I don't think so. I enjoy it more in a glass, right? If I go to a dinner party. And partly because I'm like, why am I using this single-use disposable? Now, not to like shame anyone or anything, like sometimes it's just okay. Sometimes it's the right thing to do, right? But I want us all to think about like, where is there room? Where could I shift? If you're having a dinner party or a work party, buy better quality food, right? Are you going like, what's the cheapest food we can buy for this work party? We want to show our staff that we really appreciate them. What's the worst, cheapest food we could possibly buy? Well, or, if you want to change the food culture, you could upgrade your food. Do something a little bit better. Find something from a local farm or a local caterer, and then brag about it. Talk about it with the people. Like, here's why I'm serving you this. Here's why I loved meeting that farmer. Here's why it's so delicious. Here's why I'm proud to serve it to you. That's how we change a food culture. We change the discussion, we change the conversation. Or maybe you're going to go with the same food, but you're going to use real glasses instead of plastic cups. There's just so many different things. Like, I was having a conversation with a local business here, and she's like, well, our industry isn't sustainable. There's so much packaging, there's so much this. And I said, well, what do you do for work parties? Like, get organic taco shells instead of the not organic ones. Like, what little things can you do to just change the culture a little bit? Like special treats. Do you buy the organic wine or the cheapest one? When you're doing these special things to really enjoy yourself, to have fun, do you make it decadent or deprivation? Media depictions, like maybe someone who produces TV shows, and you can be like, hey, in your TV show, you're always having them use Wonder Bread. That's not very healthy. Like Seinfeld, there's always like Wonder Bread sitting there, and cereal and Pop-Tarts. They do talk about Pop-Tarts. Maybe you talk to someone and be like, hey, shift that, right? Like Gilmore Girls, they always had their disposable coffee cups that are lined in plastic. So you're drinking plastic. Not very good for you. Not as good for the environment. Think about ways to shift the food culture. What about when you go to a restaurant? You could bring your own to-go container. Just bring your own little Tupperware. You could talk to local stores and restaurants. Hey, don't offer me that straw every time. Get a crew together. Write them a nice letter and say, we're part of a group. We're trying to improve the food culture and make it more sustainable and healthy. Could you not assume I want a straw or a plastic bag at the grocery store? Maybe this is a brand new journey for you and your family, and you don't buy any food that's organic or any food from a local farm, and you never go to the farmer's market. You could start you have a few months, well, depending where you live, where I live, we have a few months until farmers market season. You'd start getting your head around it. I'm going to go to the farmers market. I'm just going to see what they have. I'm going to start shopping a little bit differently. So those are just some ideas. So I guess we're ready to chat, and I would love to hear if people like this idea, if people want to do this, what people are thinking you're going to do. And think about like a 2 to 4 week time frame. What can you do in 2 to 4 weeks? Can you just have a conversation with your family? Let's put our forks down before meals. Maybe you'll get a water filter. Maybe you'll source your food differently. Okay, so either put in the chat or unmute. And I will take a look and see what. Melissa P. just started getting grass-fed meat from a local farm, and it's great. Yeah, grass-fed meat has, sometimes you'll notice the fat is a little bit orange. That's the omega-3s, like so healthy for you, so good for brain function too. Margot, how should we do it?
That's up to you. I mean, you have the chat open so you can read them, but we can just run through the chat questions. And then if people have other questions, you all can see the chat. There's 4 things I'll go through. Feel free to just unmute yourself and raise your point. I want to note the ones in the chat first. So if we start that off with our first question, which if the person who wrote the question wants to speak, you're by all means welcome to unmute. But do you have any recommendations, Liz, on a type of diet for MS patients?
Yeah. MS is really responsive to changing your diet. So the leading medical doctor who's become a leading functional medicine doctor on this issue is Dr. Terry Walls. And she's done tons of science and research and worked with lots of patients on this. What she does, she does a paleo style diet with lots of veggies. So she divides veggies into 3 categories: sulfur veggies, leafy greens, and colorful fruits and veggies. And she says 3 cups from each of those per day. So 3 cups of leafy greens, 3 cups of sulfur veggies, 3 cups of all the colorful ones, and colorful can be green also. And then like good quality meats, good quality fats, like from humanely raised, like grass-fed meats, wild fishes, but also like olive oil, avocados, things like that. I can't remember if she says nuts and seeds. Like this is basically an AIP style autoimmune paleo diet. Really deeply nourishing, lots and lots of veggies of all kinds, good fats, and organ meats like bone broth, liver from healthy animals. And then get rid of toxic chemicals from your life, like from your bath and body products, from your water, from your food. So you're just going with like wholesome real foods and lots of it.
While we're on that, what about things like Lyme disease and Epstein-Barr?
Oh gosh, those are not my specialties. Other functional nutritionists would have that as a specialty, but those both can be drivers of all kinds of spiraling health problems. I'm sorry, I don't have more info for you on that. I just saw like something that there might be a medical drug for Epstein-Barr now, which I don't know how effective it is or anything. I didn't even read about it, but I just saw a post about it, which would be huge because as far as I know, there was like no way to get rid of it before. So that was like could be a recurring underlying factor for people.
Thank you. So we had another question about, since hairdressers know all of the secrets, there's a question about a hairdresser who has been able to, know when someone was pregnant, but basically they're claiming that like the toxins in your body can often show up in your hair and nails. And they're just wondering if you can speak to that. And I know I've heard that too, that sometimes when you get white marks, if you're a vegetarian, that can be a sign of a B12 deficiency in your nails, or I mean, when they're ridgy. Yeah. Do you know anything about hair and nails, like holding as precursors or like windows to the body's health?
I know there's something to it. Again, like not my area of expertise, but certainly like if you're not healthy, your hair doesn't look good, right? And your nails are brittle and break. Like, I don't know if you'll see the toxic stuff in them or not. You might, I'm not sure. But yeah, like ridged fingernails, white dots on fingernails are often like zinc deficiency, other vitamin and mineral deficiencies. And that I've actually gone down that little hole of research, and I'm not fully up on like what ridges mean what or what, but definitely true. Like I know when I change up what I'm doing, the white dots will go away and change. I've seen it happen for sure.
And Jackie, if you wanted to speak to that, do feel free. I'm going to move on to the other question too, is that you had mentioned that, you know, like plastic cups and cans that are lined with things can be a pathway to toxins. Is drinking plastic bottled water the same risk factor?
Yeah. So, okay. Better for the environment, better for your body to just use a metal water bottle. Like just go buy a metal water bottle and be done with that whole situation, right? A metal water bottle can be left in a hot car. Like a plastic water bottle, you will leach more plastic into your water if it's left in a hot car. So like if you're on a road trip and you're like, oh my God, I forgot my water, I'm dehydrated, I need something. Well, buying water from a plastic water bottle is better than buying like a Coca-Cola or something, right? So it's all like a matter of degree. But I would definitely make it a habit to just get a metal water bottle and bring it around with you.
Yeah, I would suggest everyone look at PFAS too while you're thinking about things in your plastics that can leach into your drinks. But sorry, go ahead, Liz. We got a couple more.
And your body can create autoimmunity against plastic, like against BPA and other plastics. So it's not just like, oh, it'll be fine. It's like it can attach to proteins and your immune system can attack it, and then your body looks like that combination of chemicals. So it's a serious issue.
So we also have commitments to, like we said, the grass-fed meat, which is great. We've got a commitment to having teen children slow down, along with buying more organic. And then a question for you, just in general, Liz, can you speak a little bit more about pre and probiotics?
Yeah. Both are really important. So prebiotics, you could look at like all fiber as prebiotics. So your body needs lots and lots and lots of fiber for all those good bugs in your gut to eat. There are some foods, some fibers that are like especially good prebiotics, like green banana, white potato after it's been cooled, Jerusalem artichoke, so things like that. Like I think leeks are particularly good. But you don't, and no, like I love like a green banana powder in my smoothie. You don't have to get too inulin. You can do an inulin supplement or powder, a bunch of different things like that. But really just for like a regular person, just think about lots and lots of fiber. And then probiotics, always good to get from living foods, like living sauerkraut, kimchi, even alcoholic beverages or kombucha that still have living cultures. So good. But I think it's really useful to supplement with probiotics too. And there's two kinds: soil-based probiotics, like spore-based probiotics, and then the regular ones like lactobacillus, like those are the ones you find in a living culture. And I just like rotate between the two.
One final question, and then I'll give everybody a couple of wrap-up points. And this is a great one. Is a vegetarian diet healthier?
No, it's not.
Exactly. And I don't eat meat.
Oh, you don't?
No, and I don't think it is.
And that's why I push like upgrading the quality of your meat and fish. I mean, there are major problems with factory farming, aquaculture, and all and meats. And I think it's right to move away from factory farmed animals for sure, for health, for humane, moral, ethical reasons, and for environmental reasons. But most people, everyone I've ever worked with started off malnourished. Most people are malnourished because we're not eating a nutrient-dense diet and we're not digesting it. And so it's really hard to be healthy as vegetarian or vegan. Now, clearly it works really well for some people, right? There's like professional athletes that are just amazing on a vegan or vegetarian diet. And so if that works for someone, at least for some block of time, fine. Like I'm willing to say like, it works for some people. But always be careful of your own body. Like if your health starts getting weird, you have to consider, is it because of my diet? And lots of people don't. People go, well, I'm depressed, I'm gaining weight, I have sugar handling problems, I have autoimmunity, I get like all this stuff, I can't sleep, I'm really stressed out. And it's like, well, and I'm craving meat. And it's like, well, maybe your body's trying to tell you something that, so I'm all about like as much nourishment as possible and as much diversity as possible. So it's a big category to cut out. Some people will be vegetarian, but maybe eat like meat that their friend hunts like once a month. That's getting you some good nourishment at least. So, it doesn't have to be these like really strict bright lines. Although I know for some people it does have to be. But definitely takes some extra work to get all the nourishment that you need.
I love this comment to wrap it up. So more local farms, eat more organic, and use metal water bottles. Crushed it.
Yes.
So I'm gonna close this up with.
Oh, sorry. Can I just share my last?
Oh yeah, of course.
Slide. Sorry, guys. Just a couple next steps. I've got a bunch of stuff on my website you can check out. I have a free guide for what to eat for personal and planetary health. I have some DIY courses. I'm booking live workshops this year. Of course, I see a limited amount of private clients. So jump on my website. And then again, just here's my contact info. My website's lizmorgannutrition.com. I haven't changed the URL yet, even though I've changed the business name. But feel free to get in touch if you have any follow-up questions. And I would, if you want me to follow up with you about what you did to transform the food culture in your life, you can send me a text or an email right now with your email address, and I will follow up with you in maybe 2 to 4 weeks or so. So that's all I had, Margo. You can follow up. But thank you guys so much for being here. And I really do love to hear from people. So feel free to reach out.
Awesome. So yeah, I will end us in about 30 seconds by just saying that this trend of, new year, healthy, good choices is continuing with our book club next month. We're reading a book called 30 Weeks to Awesome, which is about building healthier habits. That is by Liz Smith, also a Liz. She's a JD 10. We'll send out a survey at the end of this email or at the end of this program. We want to hear your feedback on what other kind of programming you want us to do for these webinars. And as always, there is the support VLS button. We do these things without attribution to monetary contribution, but supporting the school is always important. So I have to kind of throw that in there so that Andy and Lauren don't yell at me. Sorry, guys, but it is actually super important. So Liz, thank you so much for your time, for taking this hour to do this. For everyone who attended, this was recorded and it will be up on both the VLS webinar webpage, which if you need the website for, ask me and I will get it from Lauren. And they also go up on VLS's YouTube. So thank you, everybody.